Okay, I find this scene a little funny. Okay, extremely funny. Because it's somewhat in character. You don't say this when someone opens the door to you. But then again, it gets worse. At dinner, things get really awkward.
So, Adrian.
Nikki started.
It's, great to see you. You look good. Yeah, after you took to go to the world, meet up my girlfriend, then you're cool, right?
Michelle could tell by the look on Adrian's face that he would have none of his brother's light conversation.
It's nice to see your face no longer looks like a underside of a shovel.
The Hell Family, now on TLC!
Adrian said coolly, not even daring to touch the food Nikki's little ragamuffin had set out for him. He glanced over at Michelle, who seemed to be losing her appetite as the awkwardness sank into even her stomach. Nikki touched his face a little self-consciously, as Satan and Valerie glared at Adrian. Even Michelle gave him a look that could freeze boiling water. However, Nikki smiled.
Yeah, Cassius will be disappointed. Valerie's got a good swing. I think they get along pretty well.
Nikki laughed despite himself, but stopped quickly, clearing his throat and coughing a little.
It's a pity he's locked in a flask for the rest of eternity.
More awkward silence, but Adrian enjoyed this one. It was sort of nice being able to disturb Nikki in his own home. He knew his brother felt guilty, something Adrian had never experienced, and that mentioning Cassius' predicament would only serve to torment his younger brother. What he wasn't expecting was the swift kick in the shin he received from Michelle. As he bent over to rub his new sore, Satan interrupted the silence.
How has little Zachariah been doing?
He gestured to the little toddler sitting between Valerie and Adrian. Michelle watched the little boy as Valerie said with a smile,
"Oh, he's doing great. Gets along with the other kids well. We're even thinking of getting a dog soon. I think he'd like that. Maybe a retriever or something."
She glanced over at Nikki and took his hand in hers. Michelle envied her half-brother in that instant, wishing she could have that feeling to be shared with the one she loved. However, she knew that would never happen. Her train of thought was interrupted as Adrian promptly and loudly gagged over the scene.
Oh, please tell me that not all marriages are like this.
Groaned Adrian, burying his face in his hands. Nikki looked curious while Michelle did what she could to prevent a laugh from escaping her throat.
Even though Adrian's extremely sexy, he seems to make everything hilariously awkward. The rest of the dinner, Nikki feels out of the loop, and Satan tries to cover up Michelle's secret. Adrian tells Nikki angrily that he is marrying an angel, and he hates angels. Then we have another flashback.
Cassius, I've been waiting for this day for 10,000 years.
Adrian told his brother before aiming a dart at the target. He missed the bullseye by an inch. Michelle applauded him anyway, giving him a reason to swell with pride.
I'm telling you, if the old man picks me to take over, I'm gonna keep torture going 24/7. No breaks.
Cassius threw the dart at the target.
Oh, you got him right in the eye!
They glanced at each other before bursting into laughter. Adrian turned to Michelle, who picked up a glass of clear liquid.
Here, Adrian, try this.
What is that?
Adrian took the glass from her and studied the beverage inside with a disgusted look on his face.
Is this some sort of earth poison, love?
Michelle smiled at his obvious teasing.
It's an alcoholic drink my foster father used to drink called peppermint schnapps. He enjoys it so much I thought you might like it. Oh, and one more thing.
Michelle presented Adrian with a small, gooey, triangular piece of food.
You might want to try the slice of pizza, too. I thought you might want to try some food from Earth and see why I spent so much time there. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
What?
Michelle is the reason why Adrian likes peppermint schnapps and pizza?
Well, probably this is before Adrian went to Earth, so I'm guessing that she was just trying to help.
Everyone in the Prince Adrian fan club knows that Adrian loves peppermint schnapps and pizza.
There's an Adrian fan club?
Now, Chibi Fangirl, just please calm down.
That flashback had nothing to do with anything. I'm not sure how awkward dinner can relate to Adrian's love for peppermint schnapps and pizza. The rest of the flashback is the first few minutes of the actual movie where Cassius mind wrestles Nikki and Satan declares himself king again, thus giving two older brothers going to Earth. However, unlike the actual movie, Michelle asks Satan if she can marry Adrian. However, Satan's response is he cannot marry Michelle until he can prove himself worthy of ruling hell. However, those who have seen the movie knows what happens in the end. Now, instead of Adrian's real reason of going to Earth to claim souls and declare himself king of hell, he goes so he can marry Michelle. Now, that is really sweet. I wish Meg could do that for me.
Hey, I did that and you're still not happy.
That's because you're not Adrian. We are now back in real time, and Adrian is trying to get into Michelle's pants, but she says she can't. Hey Adrian, since you can't sit in Michelle, why not try me instead? That was so much better than the first time. I especially like when he...
You know what? I just don't want to know, okay? Just put on some clothes and review the frickin' fan.
Chapter 3 ends with Nikki and Satan discovering Michelle's mind powers, even though all devils have mind powers. Satan finds this a good way for Michelle to communicate with Adrian without actually talking to him. You know, for the King of Hell, he isn't very bright. Chapter 4 opens up with Valerie teaching Michelle how to cook, and Adrian is watching in a really creepy manner. Seriously, who gets turned on by cooking? Then Zachariah tries to be friendly with Adrian, and then Adrian gets really awkward. But things get really awkward when this happens.
Began setting out plates and silverware. Michelle scowled in jealousy. Of course, he allowed Nikki and Valerie to be married, but not her and Adrian. What was the difference between the two couples? As far as Michelle knew, Satan had only allowed Nikki to marry Valerie because Nikki was the favorite between the three sons. As Michelle's anger grew, a very strange occurrence happened.
Michelle!
Shouted Adrian, rising to his feet. Satan turned to find Michelle had completely vanished.
Michelle, where are you?
Nikki ran into the room.
What's going on, Dad?
Michelle's disappeared into thin air!
He exclaimed. Everyone began searching for the girl, but to no avail. Poor Michelle, however, had never left the room. She stood there in amazement, watching as everyone searched desperately for her. She, in the meantime, was trying desperately to make the invisibility stop. It was an odd sensation, especially since she could walk through objects. She drew close to Adrian, attempting to touch his cheek. She felt it for an instant before her hand glided through.
Please, stop.
What happened, love?
He asked her. Michelle gestured with her hands and Satan handed her pen and paper so she could reply. Wearily, she wrote, I'm not exactly sure what happened. One moment I was standing there. The next minute I was invisible and could pass through everything like a ghost. Nikki, his father, worried for his half-sister. If her powers continued growing as quickly as they were, she could very possibly suffer a brain overload.
Dad?
Satan swallowed. He didn't like this one bit. Michelle's life by keeping her around Adrian, especially if Michelle was able to be controlled by him. However, he had to allow Michelle the chance to regain her soul. This was the last time she would ever have the opportunity.
Well, Michelle, I guess you're getting those powers Pop was talking about. Well, I'll have to help you learn to control them now, won't we?
Both boys nodded, but it was Mickey who gave her a hug.
Michelle, you're finally getting the powers like ours, just like you've always wanted.
What? None of them can do that. They possess bodies, yes, but they aren't ghosts. And if they did have these powers, why is Michelle so fragile while everyone else is immune to this? So then we have another awkward dinner scene, which I skipped over because it's almost the same thing as the dinner scene. And then everyone goes to heaven and things get even more dumber.
Adrian growled under his breath as Holly led them through the gates of heaven. Michelle had been right so far, and they weren't even inside yet. Adrian glared as curious eyes peered over fences to stare at him. He was having enough trouble as it was without their eyes goggling at him. The bright light hurt Adrian's eyes, and the clean, cool air was choking to his blackened lungs. The air was cool, but to Adrian seemed icy, and he shivered violently as his father knocked upon the golden door of a White House exactly identical to all the others.
You could have told me to dress a little warmer, love.
You didn't ask.
Michelle replied.
Plus, I did mention that everywhere is colder than hell.
Opening the door slowly, Crystal allowed the three guests to enter. The first to enter was shorter, but not short, with twin pointed horns and graying hair. He had a kind, if not devious, smile, and handsome glittering eyes. Pointed ears protruded from the sides of his head, and he held out the clawed hand in greeting. The second one to enter, with her usual attire, could not be mistaken for anyone other than her best friend, the young man trailing behind them. Melody blinked, and blinked again, and blushed, and tried not to stare. But he was most certainly one of the most attractive young men she had encountered in a long time. His piercing gray blue eyes seemed to look straight through her. His nose was straight, his skin smooth and pale, and his face framed by wild yellow hair. He was very, very tall, definitely over 6 feet, with wide shoulders and a slender frame. He was dressed in black, from his long boots to his neatly gloved hands, and seemed to be shivering ever so slightly. Melody couldn't help but wonder what she had been so worried about. Michelle could see the curious look in Melody's eyes and knew she was in for a big surprise. Melody stepped closer and took in the sight of Adrian as Crystal introduced the two. Melody glanced into his icy eyes and looked down immediately. Forcing her lovely hazel eyes up, she held out the soft, delicate hand, a peace offering of an angel. He paused for a split second, then took her hand, pulled her forward, and as his other hand flew up to cradle the back of her head, he kissed her quite passionately considering the shortness of their time spent together. Melody was too stunned to react, as was the rest of the family, Michelle not included as this was part of the plan. Finally, his father gathered his wits.